Alright, Shiur as usual is Lila Nishmas of the Modi, B'Yakpud, M'Shlam Yosef, and Kapot, Mishkavai. Say that it's a very geschmack blatt Gemarrah. It's a really geschmack blatt Gemarrah. Alright, last week we're holding dayS. It's a new Gemarrah, starting a new Mishnah. Last week we started the beginning. I basically said in the Mishnah it says that the world is judged on 4 times, 4 seasons. Pesach is grain, Shavuos is fruits from the tree, and Rosh Hashana, everyone goes in front of the Eibusha Meforshim, and the Gemarrah is going to explain exactly what the Meforshim is. dayS on top. The Mishnah, we did the Mishnah last time, just rehashing, going over the Mishnah again. That the 4 times that the world is judged. So Pesach is grain, wheat, grain. Atzeres is fruit of a tree. Rosh Hashana, all the inhabitants of the world go in front of the Eibush, the Kivnei Modain. And the Gemarrah is going to explain later on what Modain exactly is. And then the Mishnah brings a pasuk, and the Gemarrah is also going to explain how that pasuk tells us that everyone goes in front of the Eibush. And Sukkos, we are judged on the water. Okay, and we saw that we brought the tayS, a question in tayS, and a story with the guy that slept in the cemetery. If you remember, the slave slept in the cemetery because he got in a fight with his wife. Okay, so before we go further, I made a printout. There's a lot of very, very interesting meforshim on this piece of Gemarrah. Instead of flipping around, print it out. So let's start with the Dan. So they said Rosh Hashana, all the inhabitants of the world, even the fun of Knivin Imarim. So the Ran wants to establish. We learned this when we learned the Gemarrah before Tishrei. We learned this. We'll go over it again quickly. So the Ran is basically asking, understand that everything else has a connection with the Tziyant of Pesach, with Tevuah, because that's when you start cutting the Tevuah, the grain in the field. Shavuos, the Gemarrah is going to say why it's connected. But what's the connection with Rosh Hashana and the fact that the whole world is judged? What's the connection with Rosh Hashana? Yes, Shlishoil, Lama Adam Nidin Rosh Hashana, Yosem Shayom. Why is Rosh Hashana more than any other days? The Bishle Meshat Varim, all the other things that the Mishnah mentioned, Tana Tevuah, Peres, Ilon, Umayim, grain, fruits from the tree and water, Kolech Bezman, and everyone understand. We understand that belongs to that time. The Gemarrah later is going to say why are these connected? Why is the Tevuah connected with Pesach? Why is the Peres and the fruit of the tree connected with Shavuos, etc.? But what's the connection of Adam Lama Nidin B'Yosem Rosh Hashana B'Shayam? What?
Why isn't that so posh? That's the day it was created.
Okay, so that's what he's going to answer. What's it called? It's not so poshet because there's 2 days of Shana, there's Yom Kippur, and there's every day the Gemarrah has a machlekes later on whether a person has a judgment every single day. And what did it pick Rosh Hashana? What happened in Rosh Hashana? If it's the beginning of the creation of the world, then it should be Chavheil. If it's the creation of the day, that's the creation of man himself. Okay. So that's what he's about to go. But look, he's answering claiming about we learned in Psikta in the name of Abelazar, Pirush Dosh Hashem Beimotzei, as was be'esim v'chamisha be'el nivro elam, on the 25th of El the world was created. Or the Fizeh Hodam when we Gemarrah Abelazar says that the world was created Tishrei. It must be Al Gemar B'Yosim Kaminim. He's talking about when they finished the completion of creation. The world was created on Chafei El. The completion was Aleph Tishrei. Why? The Adam Rishon Shebo Nigma Olam Niva B'Yom Shishi. And again, still, just because it was created, why is he being judged that day? Maybe go according to the day the other mission died, because that's when basically a judgment he finishes. Why Rosh Hashana? Why the day that it was created? So there's more to it. Vegasinon su hosem epsikta, and in Psikta it continues and says Nimtzas Oimer. Nimtzas Oimer. So Rosh Hashana nivu Adam Rishon. On Rosh Hashana, Adam Rishon was created. Rishoyna in the first hour, all of Machshava. First hour of Rosh Hashana, Aleph Tishrei, the 6th day of creation, the Eibusha thought about all of Machshava to create mankind. B'Shniya, the 2nd hour, 6th line from the top. B'Shniya Nisyayitz Imalach Hashadas. He had he was what's it called? He was asking the Malach Hashal, the Malachim, whether should I create, like we learn in the Chumash. B'shlishis kon asafo, in the third hour, the Eibishter gathered the earth from all different corners of the world. B'revius, in the fourth hour, Govla, he made it with water, and he made it into a form. B'chamishes rakmoy, b'shishis tzar, basically added all the different parts that needed to be added in order to create a person. B'shaviz, in the seventh hour, Zadak ben Neshama, the Eibishter added the Neshama into Adam Rishon. B'shminis, in the eighth hour, he chnisa le Gan Eden, he said, okay, now this is your job. Gan Eden le'ovda l'shama, your job is to be in the Gan Eden. B'chis, in the ninth hour, nitztava, the Eibishter told him that your job is to take care of the Gan Eden. B'asiris, 1 hour later, in the next hour, Sorach Adam Rishon made his Aveda. With what? With an Eitz Hadas. What was the Eitz Hadas? We'll see later. On the 11th hour, the Eibishter judged him. In the 12th hour, Yotze B'dimus, he came out basically out of judgment that he was guilty, and the punishment was out of Gan Eden. So basically, it's not only that he was created on that day, but it's more than that. Adam Rishon was judged on a day, and the judgment was actually executed on that same day. And that's why the Shoshana has a special place of Day of Judgment. This is a sign for your sons, for your offspring. Same way you stood in judgment on that day, and you came out of judgment. Your children, your offspring will also have a day of judgment. That's the seventh month, first day. Now we understand why Adam Rishon is judged on Hashem more than the other day. There's a sign to it. What's the constellation of that month? Is Maznaim. Even according to the Goyim, it's Maznaim. It's the scale. Okay, there's these stars here. Now, Shoshana, we spend time davening in the shul. According to who do we daven? We daven according to Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Elazar says that the world was created Chafei Elul, and Adam Rishon was created on Shoshana. Okay, the B'riyas Olam was a Chafei Elul, and Rosh Hashana is the sixth day of creation of Tishrei. In Barcelona, in Spain, and the areas, they wake up early on the Chafei Elul, and they daven because that day was the creation of the world. Okay, and then the Gemarrah is basically asking, we're going to skip the Gemarrah is asking, according to the Beshua says the world was created in Nisan. So why do we daven Tishrei? Why is all that we said just now is basically based on the fact that the world was created on Chafei Elul. Therefore, creation of Adam Rishon was on Aleph Tishrei, the sixth day, and therefore all this entire story happened on Aleph Tishrei. But according to the Beshua, that the world was created not Chafei Elul, but it was created Chafei Adam. So the whole story happened with Adam Rishon being judged and sentenced and sent out. Happened on Aleph Nisan. Why do we daven Aleph Tishrei Hashanah? That's what he's basically asking, and he's answering. Basically, let's go to the next paragraph. According to the Beshua, the world was created Chavei Nisan, which basically Aleph Nisan is the that should have been Rosh Hashana. The Eibishter had another. According to the Beshua, the Eibishter planned it out in such a way to give the Eden the ability to become zakeh, to become out pure, to become out on the right way. He wanted to judge them on a time when it was already put away for kapara, for forgiveness, for atonement. Because the first time the Yidden as a nation made a very grave sin was the Chet HaEgel, and the Eibishter forgave them because chronologically that's how it worked. And the Eibishter forgave them Yom Kippurim. And the Eibishter decided that will be the day that I forgive. The Eibishter said, okay, let's scale it back. On Yom Kippur is a day that I'm going to forgive you. But I'm going to scale it back that the day of judgment is going to be Rosh Hashana. Why? Tzaddikim will get judged and it gets signed and they get stamped right away. That's the day of Yom Kippur. The Torah gave them a time. Pasha was nice to us. He gives us time between Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. Should look into your deeds, into your whatever you did throughout the year. You should turn to Eibishter. Okay. Another answer. It could be another answer. Chronologically, again, connected to what happened Rosh Hashanah, the Eibishter started forgiving Moshe Rabbeinu in the second time period. Moshe Rabbeinu went up to the mountain 3 times, right? And the second time, at the end, the second time is when the Eibishter, yeah. So when did that start? When did that Salach start? That started Rosh Hashanah. So Rosh Hashanah, Moshe started forgiving Moshe. He forgave him completely. That's what Eibishter wanted to connect this day with judgment, and even according to the Beshur, that the world was created on Chav Hei Adar, and the Adam edition was created on Aleph Nisan, was still made a judgment day on Rosh Hashanah because he wanted to connect it to the day later on, whatever happened later on with the Yidden by the Chet HaEgel. Okay, let's go back in the Gemarrah. Tazayin Omed Aleph. So we mentioned the Mishnah 4 dates. The first date that we mentioned in the Mishnah is the date that the grain is being judged on Pesach. The Gemarrah is going to ask this, like, the Gemarrah is like split in 3 parts. The first part of the Gemarrah, the next 8-9 lines, is going to discuss a technical thing. Later on, it's going to discuss who the Mishnah is, which Tana told us this Mishnah. So let's say the first part. Hai Tvua, this grain that you mentioned, what kind of grain are we talking about? You plant grain usually around Cheshvan time. The grain grows and you cut it, right? Bring the oimer and they start cutting the grain. So Pesach, there is standing grain in the field. So what does it mean that this grain is being judged? What does it mean this grain is being judged? It already grew. It's almost being cut. What does that mean? Hai Tvua, with this grain that we're talking about, what are we talking about? If you would say Hot Tvua the Kaima, it's talking about the grain that's already standing. So I have a question. The grain started growing in Cheshvan. It went through multiple events, hail, storms, whatever it is. The Rebbe Chanal says Harpatke means events, like and it says Kenruches, Blokim, Ksham, different types of events that went over this grain. Who decided that they will have so much rain? Who decided that there will be hail? Who decided that the grain will be destroyed by whatever natural disasters? That must have happened earlier. So the day of judgment of the grain that's standing on Pesach, that day of judgment should have been much earlier. So we're coming in our Pesach Tavshin Pevav. The grain is standing in the field. When did that grain get judged? We must say that grain got judged earlier, not the Pevav. So the judgment of now is for what? Is for the future. So Hot Tvua the Kaim, if you're talking about the Tvua that's already standing, I don't understand. Kol Hani Harpatki, the Aduala, all these events that happened to the grain, Emas Itudun, when was it judged? When did the Eibishter decide that these things should happen to the grain? So we must say that Tavshin Pehei, Pesach Tavshin Pehei, there was a day of judgment for all the grain that's going to be planted in Cheshvan of Pevav of the next year. Elotvua, and therefore now every Pesach it's for the future grain. So Elotvua, the mizdal that is going to be in the future, planted in the future. Lememres, if that's the case, the chadina mitnan, that the grain, the stalks of grain, only have one day of judgment. That's what comes out. Every Pesach, you decide on the future grain. And the Gemarrah is basically going to say, that's not true. I'm going to bring a life from Belaisa that the grain gets judged twice. This Pesach and next Pesach. And we'll see. Votanya.
The grain is not getting judged. It's going according to the way we behave. That's where we're going to have the grain. It's not the actual...
So the Arm meforshim asked that. Rosh Hashana, when a person is judged what kind of year he'll have, that should include the grain, it should include the water, rain, everything. So yeah, it is, he gets judged in one way and the grain gets judged separately also. Apparently, and it's connected somehow because it's what you do, how you behave will affect the grain eventually. But yeah, the meforshim speak about it. Okay. Zakti. So we're talking. Votani evelon dabayis. Tvua shira bo keri. A tvua that something happened. A mikra. Something happened. Yeah. Or oinus. Keri is basically a hail, a storm, something. Or oinus, something you messed up, and the entire tvua, the entire grain, the crop was destroyed. So if this happened, koidim Pesach. If this happened, let's say now before Pesach Pevav. Nidoin is l'shava. We must say that the day of judgment was Pesach Tavshin Behei. If this happened after Pesach Pevav, la'acha Pesach, Nidoin is l'haba. Then Pesach Pevav is the one the judge would have happened later on. So basically, it's saying that the same grain that started growing in Cheshvan can have two judgments. Pesach Behei was a judgment about the grain until Pesach Pevav. Pevav, it's a new judgment. So the same grain can have 2 days of judgment.
Because it still wasn't cut.
Yeah, as long as it wasn't cut. Yeah. So Adam, so the Gemarrah, the Brayse goes on and says, Adam shir beikeri. If something happens to a person, oinus, something happened to him. Koidem Yom Kippurim. If it happened before Yom Kippur, which is the day that the chesimas of the Yom Adin, nidin l'shaval, we must say that it was decided Tishrei Pei. It was decided that something should happen to a person in Vav Tishrei Pei Vav. If it happened after Yom Kippur, so nidin l'shaval, la'ach Yom Kippur nidin l'haba. So that Tisha of Pei Vav decided anything that happens from Yom Kippur on. From here we see that the grain has 2 dinim, has 2 judgment days. Amar Abaya. So Abaya comes and said, Hilkoch, therefore, the other brings down, and I couldn't find it, one of the sichas somewhere, and I believe it was Yud Shvat, that brings down the difference between Abaya and Rava. That one was very wealthy, the other was very wealthy, and Abaya was actually poor. And you could see it in the way they dealt with the Talmidim and the way they taught. One was more fakvetch, one was bleitkite. We're saying Abaya is always looking, okay, how can I make another $1? So Omar Abaya, Hilkoch, if you're standing towards the end of the rainy season, you're standing in Shvat Odel, and ki chazi inish, the matzlach zada aflo, when a person stands and he sees that his vegetables or whatever he cropped that he put into the ground in Cheshvan, and it takes a few months. Afelo is afilo isayno. It's said by the Makkah of blatt that the Makkah of blatt destroyed all the crops, but certain crop wasn't destroyed. Why? Ki afilo isayno, because they are delayed. So you plant something in Cheshvan, it takes 4 or 5 months to grow. So if comes Cheshvan, comes a Shvat time, other time, and you see that the crop is really good, it must be that the Pesach before you were judged for a good crop. So therefore, what should he do? Ligdam, he should quickly hurry. Velizra chalfa, he should plant vegetables, a crop that grow very fast. The ad the motil medina, until it comes to the next Pesach, you're going to be judged again. Kadim v'salik, the already vegetables grow, and basically an investment. Chapadan, you know it's going good. The markets are what's it called? Not bullish, very bullish. Yeah, thank you. So invest in crop. Okay, so basically, this is the story. This is the end of this Gemarrah. Pesach is basically in Pesach you have 2 judgments. In Pesach it's judged on the crops that you're going to plant the next year, and it's also you're also being judged on the crops that already have grown and from Pesach and on until you cut it. Okay, that's one piece of Gemarrah. Next piece is going to discuss this Mishnah. This Mishnah is a very interesting Mishnah, because in the beginning of the previous Mishnah it mentions different dates for the Hashanah, and here it comes and it throws in Pesach for Tvua, and technically Tvua has different dates. So who's this Baal Mishnah? Who is this guy that said this Mishnah? So usually Stam Mishnah, if a Mishnah is Stam, it's Sasam, it's not written who it is, it's Lameh. But here we have to find out, and the Gemarrah is going to say it's not Lameh. Who is this Mishnah going according to? Who is the Baal Mishnah? Who said this Mishnah? It's none of these 4. The Tanya. Everyone is being judged on Rosh Hashana. Everything, grain, fruit, trees, everything is being judged on Rosh Hashana. V'gzadin is so therefore this Mishnah definitely cannot be Rameh, because Rameh said Rosh Hashana and Kippur, no other dates, no Pesach, no Shavuos, nothing. Rabbi Yehuda says, and Rabbi Yehuda could be very closely related to the Mishnah, everyone is being judged Rosh Hashana. However, Gzar Din Shalahem, when do we finalize the Gzar Din? Nechtam kol echad v'echad bizmanai, every single thing in their time. The Pesach ala Tvua. The Gemarrah later on again is going to explain what's the connection with Pesach and Tvua. Batzeres ala Peres, Shavuos about the fruit of the trees. Peres ilan b'chagim den l'mayim. Sukkos we're judged for water, if it's going to be a rainy season or not. V'adam nidim Rosh Hashana v'Gzar Din shel nechtam Yom Kippurim. And Gzar Din is Yom Kippurim. So this is, it could be that Yehuda is saying this Mishnah, but Yehuda does not. The Mishnah does not mention Yom Kippur at all. It mentions that a person is being judged on Rosh Hashana. So it can't be Rabbi Yehuda, because Rabbi Yehuda mentions that Gzar Din is Yom Kippur, and all the other items are Gzar Din. The fact that Pesach al Tvua, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's a Gzar Din. It's not the judgment. That's the final stamp. Rabbi Yossi says, Adam niden b'chol yoyim, a person is being judged every single day. Shenema, it says in the pasuk. The pasuk has 4 words. Vatifkadenu levkodim legoyim tifchonenu. Vatifkadenu, you're going to be visited. Levkodim, every morning. Every morning, the Eibishter visits and checks you out and wants to see whether you are worthy of being of surviving the day. Every day, according to Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Nosson Omer, from the end of that same pasuk, but the end. Adam nidin b'chol shah, every moment. Shenema l'goyim tifchonenu, every moment you will be boichen, we are testing you, we're checking you out every moment. Okay, so if Rabbi Yossi says every day, and Rabbi Nosson says every moment, and Rabbi Meir says Rosh Hashana and Yom Kippur is the day of judgment, and Rabbi Yehuda says that the Adam is Nida in Rosh Hashana, but this Gzar Din is Yom Kippur, and the Mishnah is mentioned Yom Kippur. So this Mishnah cannot be any of these Tanoim. So who is this Mishnah? Who is the Bala Mishnah? One second. Rabbi Yehuda is the closest, because he says all the dates. But the Mishnah mentions Tavua. We're talking about the Gzar Din. When the Mishnah mentions Peres Ilam, we're talking about the Gzar Din in the end. But then I have a question: where's the Gzar Din of the Adam? Yochakasha Adam. It doesn't mention the Gzar Din of the Adam, which is in Kippur, according to the Yehuda. So Amarava Haitana, the Tana of our Mishnah is what? Who is it? The Vei Rabbi Shmuel. It's a Yeshiva Rabbi Shmuel. The Tana of the Vei Rabbi Shmuel learned in Yeshiva Rabbi Shmuel. Ba'aba Pakim Olam Nida, in 4 times of the year the world is judged. The Pesach al Tvua. Pesach we're judged on the grain. Batzeres al Peres Ilan, Shavuos on the fruit of the tree. B'chagan in Amayim, v'adam nidim Rosh Hashana, and a person is judged on Rosh Hashana. V'gzar din shel nechtam Yom Kippur, and his day of judgment is Yom Kippur. And why doesn't the Mishnah mention the Yom Kippurim? Because the Mishnah only mentions the Yom Hadin, and not the Yom HaChasima, not the day that we are stamped, but the day that we are judged. Rabbi Shmuel says, grain is not judged on Rosh Hashana, it's judged on Pesach. Peres Ilan, fruits are not judged on Rosh Hashana, they're judged on Atzeres. And Adam is also judged on Rosh Hashana. We're not talking about the Gzar Din. Rabbi Shmuel mentions Gzar Din in his opinion, but it's not in our Mishnah. He doesn't say it, because our Mishnah doesn't talk about Gzar Din. Our Mishnah only speaks about the day of judgment.
What about Tu B'Shvat?
So again, that's a different Tana. So that's why we have to find out who this Tana is, because
says either Shchedish or
right. The first Mishnah of Bechal has many other dates. It doesn't mention Shavuot. I believe it doesn't even mention Shavuos, because there's different opinions when things happen. In the Mishnah, it's Aleph Elul, Aleph Tisha, Aleph Nisan, and Aleph Tu B'Shvat. It doesn't even mention Shavuos. But so it's a different Tana. We have to find out who it is. So now we found out it's the Yeshiva of Rabbi Shmuel. Amar Rav Chizda. So Rav Chizda said, my time with Rabbi Yossi. What's the reason that Rabbi Yossi says that a person is judged daily? For the Gemarrah, what? He says, brings the pasuk that every morning you're being visited by the Eibishter to check if you're worthy to continue or not. No, Anan Hochakam. This is the question. My time in Rabbi Nosson. This is coming from one pasuk. Rabbi Nosson and Rabbi Yossi use the same pasuk to learn whether you're being judged in the morning or every moment. So why is Rabbi Yossi saying not like Rabbi Nosson? It's every moment. My time like Rabbi Nosson. So Rabbi Yossi would have answered you, B'china when we're talking about the end of the pasuk is Lirgoim tifchonenu, Pchina is a yuna bi'alma. It's just a glance. It's not really judging. It's just looking at the person quickly, briefly. And exactly about the same thing also Pkida, but if that the fact that Eibush is visiting you, visiting is also not a judgment. It's just looking at you. Pkida name yuna bi'alma. It's only simply glaring and looking at you. So why, if both mean looking quickly, why did Rabbi Yossi say that you're judged daily and not every moment like a Nassim? The time of Rabbi Yossi is from here. It says a pasuk. We said it's pasuk every single day, but davening last is mishpat avde, mishpat am yisod vayoy biyoy. That he wants that the Eibusha does the mishpat avdoi, the judgment of his servant, and mishpat amoy on its nation. Yisrael advayoy ben what? Yeah, said by before Hayam Yoim in the paragraph by Beis Yaakov Chuvanechov. We mentioned a pasuk which is from Micha, whereas from Melachim. Okay. So that's the pasuk that Rabbi Yossi is learning. Here he is learning from that every day you're being judged. Dvayoim beyoyim, mishpat dvayoim beyoyim. Ve'amar Rav Chizna says even more. Melech ve'tzibul, a king and a tzibul both have a day of judgment. Melech nichnas tchiladin. First, you take the king into the judgment. Eisech Rosh Hashana, the Eibush is judging the world. He's also judging the kings. The Eibush is first judging the kings. The Eibush is first judging the kings, and only then he's judging the nation. Why? Right, but l'chor it's a day of judgment. If they messed up, should well, what's it? Yeah. Like it says in pasuk, mishpat avda, the Eibush servant which goes on a king, and then mishpat am yisrael. It's almost like when you go to now is the time when people are signing up to school and fighting with tuition. You don't know. You want to wait till the end to fight with tuition, or you want to get in early before they get all upset. The mishpat avda first, if the Eibush is judging the entire nation, and at the end he doesn't have time for the kingdom. The whole nation messed up. Yalla, you're going to be. We're going to take care of you as well. So the king goes first when the Eibishter has time. When we didn't upset the Eibishter yet fully, the king is going to go get judged, and it helps the whole nation. It doesn't make a difference. You got to fill out a form. It doesn't make a difference. Okay. Okay. Let's see over here. Second paragraph, Rada Mashal here. Mehocha. Mashal says Mehocha. The Mashal is asking a question that in the B'naisa clearly he brings the pasuk Vatifkaden Lav Kolam. How come the Gemarrah later on changes that the pasuk that Yossi uses is last is Mishpat Avde? 1 second. Oh, the reason I wanted to bring this is really for the end of the Mashal. The Mashal is basically saying the first 3 lines. The Mashal is basically saying that Rabbi Yossi we learn from both psukim. Vatifkaden Lav Kolam, the Eibush is visiting you every morning, and Mishpat Vayom B'Yoyim daily. Why do we need 2 psukim? One pasuk is to tell you that it's daily, and the other pasuk come to tell you when during the day is this happening. 7:15 during Shachris in the morning. 7:10. Change the time, right? So the third line in the Mashal. El the Maisi Haikoi brings a second pasuk to tell you what hour of the day is the Eibush judging you, and that's why he may still have him Haikoi, but if you got another call in the morning, the Hainu Baboikel shall call you in the morning of every day. Like it says in the first paragraph of Avodah the Lelitzli in Shloisa the Musa Rosh Hashana begimel shoy kamai. So you should not daven Musaf early in the morning. Chabad, we don't have that problem. Shum the Kivan the Mafki Dina, because that hour is a day of Din. The Eibush is judging you. Dilma Ma'ayne Be'ovdei. The Eibush is going to look more into our deeds, and the outcome is not going to be that good.
When after mincha is a time of Din.
No, that's a gevurah, but according to this, the time of judgment b'chlal, according to Rabbi Yossi, is the morning hours.
Come
Yeah.
late to your corpus.
Yeah, yeah. So in the morning, so we Chabad don't have a problem because we start shachris by the time it's almost over. So yeah,
Already mechaper.
yeah, we're all good. tzad according to what's it called, the Chassidim used to drink because the shikha is in a shikha. What's it was to say that we don't judge a drunkard? Okay, let's go back to the Gemarrah. All right, so according to Rabbi Yossi, we're judged daily in the morning. Okay, the Gemarrah is going to ask a question. Oh, we didn't finish. My time, it's not possible. It's pasnish that the king should sit outside and wait until the people are judged. The second one, this is what we're talking about, the tuition board. My time, let the king be judged before before the chadin af, the anger is big, because unfortunately we did not good things in that year. Okay. Amar Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yosef asks a question. If every person is judged on Rosh Hashana, all the happenings of that year, if someone gets sick in the middle of the year, how come we can daven for him? What is it going to do? It was judged, it was nechtam, done. Amar Rabbi Yosef.
That's what I was wondering about Collins. That's what he, like, the first night of Rosh Hashana, yeah?
Which comes in?
The Rosh Hashiva.
Oh, yeah, no. So now, first of all, we know that happened the year before, right? According to the Gemarrah. Yeah, you're not Nila.
That's further. This is Mamash.
Yeah. I know one thing my father did, that he made us chazan. We have to go daven. I saw b'tevus. We're gonna have to all go daven. But I know some b'tevus can never fall on the Shabbos, yeah? Right? Okay, so at least that he took care of. We don't have to daven the whole Shabbos davening. Okay. Now, nowadays, that people aktsiri, people that are sick, v'amri are people talmid chacham that are weak. So how can we daven if the judgment is done on Rosh Hashana? And the Gemarrah Rabbi Yossi says that there's a judgment daily. So therefore, daily, if this happens, if you got sick on Monday, daven Monday. So Tuesday, the judgment will be different. They'll get healthy. That's what the Gemarrah says. Second answer, le'olam k'rabbanan could be all the other rabbanan that says Rosh Hashana or whatever it is, Rosh Hashana. Le'olam k'rabbanan could be also Rosh Hashana. They're according to ones that say that the person is judged Rosh Hashana, nechta bim kibbeh, everything. It goes according to Rabbi Yitzchak. Screaming at Tzaika is good both before Gzadin and after Gzadin, so it doesn't make a difference if Kippur passed and you were nechtam, something bad is going to happen. Your Tzaika could change something. So, but in the Havamim, in the beginning, the Gemarrah basically said that it goes really according to Rabbi Yossi. The MS is even in the first, even if you stop at the first answer that it goes according to Rabbi Yossi, I have another question. Daily, we say the Forein Hashem Elokeinu. We say about, which is basically about the four, and we say about Chalein Hashem Elokeinu, which is Panasa. So, if we bring Judge Rosh Hashana, why davening daily? So, we know Chassidus, it brings down the Amshachas and everything, but technically, if you can be rejudged, what's the point? Zok Taisus, Kaman Matzlinan Aktsir v'Amrik Rabbi Yossi ve'im Taimar. Asks us a question: Do we not also daven lefreinu and bichas hashanim? Ve'oid, another question: Rabbi Yehuda himself that says the Amar Hacha Adam Nidim Rosh Hashana Gzadin Shlei Nechtam Yom Kippurim. Read himself that says that a person is judged on Rosh Hashana and the Chsima, the Gemarrah Din is Yom Kippur. He himself says Ha'amar bePerek Hamad Shabbos Hanichnas Levakei Achoid. If someone goes inside to visit if someone goes to visit a sick person, or what should he say? The Eibishter should have Rachmanis on you. So you're davening to the Eibishter that the Gzadin should change. But he himself said the Gzadin is Yom Kippur. Rabbeinu Tam says like this: we never daven daily that someone should not get sick, because that Gzadin is not in your hands. That can only daven according to Rabbi Yossi, because Rabbi Yossi says you can daven Monday that I shouldn't get sick on Tuesday, because every day. But I can daven I shouldn't get sick if it was already judged in Yom Kippur. But after he got sick, to get healed, matzlinon. That we do daven according to the kuli. The Dr.א-טז.ב explains. The Ben Ham explains. The Mosa Yechelu. When do we get sick? Nigzam. That was already a sign. The Eibishter told us. Hashanah judged us. Yom Kippur decided. We know he knows exactly when we're going to get sick. That was decided already. That can't change anymore. Mosa Yisrapu loy nigzal. When we're going to be able, the Eibishter left open. This is up to you. Daven and change it. Okay, we're going to skip the next two lines because it's talking technical thing, who these people are, the Maria and the Ktsi. And then it says, so that's talking about the Refuein, what about the davening for Panasa? Sagt the Test weiter, Mash mispalen Bichas Hashanah heine lechakamon, Pirkin, it's later on in Tafid Zayin, Shim Paschu Geshamim Mu'atim, if the Eibishter decided that it will rain, but a little rain, not enough, we daven, she read him makim bizmanon, that the Eibishter should bring it down in time. The next answer, the Test says that a Tefillah Rabbin is different, and therefore Abida also, when he walked into the house, he davened not only for the person that's sick, but all the Choyla Amecha. And basically, that's why today we can daven a Fu'ena, because we daven not for it's a tzibur davening, it's not a personal thing. Okay. Zog the Gemarrah weit. Let's go back into the Gemarrah. Tanya Amar Rabbi Yehuda Mishum Rabbi Kiva, so 4 lines from the widest lines. Now we're going to explain what's the connection between Tavua and Pesach, Peres Ilan Atzeres, and water by Chag. So why did the Torah tell us bring oimel during Pesach, right after Pesach? During Pesach, second day Pesach. Because Pesach is man Tavua. But not Tavua. Omar Kadosh Baruch Hu said, "Aviu lefana oimel Pesach, bring them in front of me oimel, Kadosh Baruch Lachem Tavua shebesadas, that the grain in the field will be blessed." Why? Because that's the time you cut the grain, cut the wheat. Why did the Torah tell us to bring 2 lechem, which is made out of what's it called? Out of chita. Batzeres, Atzeres, Zman Persilim, because Atzeres is the time when the so this is Man Atzeres Man Persilim, because Atzeres is the time when you start taking off. This is the time when all the fruits get ripened, and that's when you take it off. What's the connection with Shtei Lechem, which is a grain, and fruit of a tree? Sagt Rashi, Shtei Lechem, Yiratzu al Peres, the Shtu Lechem are going to atone for the Peres Ilan. Why? It says Rashi one thing, Shein Matirin Lahavi Bikurim, because now as soon as you bring the Shtei Lechem, now you can bring Bikurim. And after you bring bikudim, you can eat all the fruits. You don't bring the bikudim, the first ripened fruits, before it says for sure. Says Rashi weiter, Vani shamaiti the Rabbi Tamei. I heard this statement is the name of Rabbi. Rabbi goes according to his shittah that it says in Sanhedrin, Ozla command Om b'Sanhedrin, eitz, the tree she'achal adam rishon chita isa. That chita, wheat kernels, wheat is not something that grows; it's a tree, and the eitz hadas was chita. So not Adam's apple, it has to be Adam's kernel. The chayil has to be Adam's
tree. Why is it called the eitz though? Wasn't it a tree?
Because eitz, no. Why is it called a tree? Says look in the Ritva. The Ritva says, third paragraph. Vim ta'amayni shelechem shomin dogon leratz laperos ilon. Same question, Rashi. What's the connection with min dogon, grain, and a fruit of a tree? The tinach oimel v'nischamayim. Yeah, good if you bring the carbon oimel or water. Have moisamin. We're pouring water on the mizbeach because we asked the neighbors to pour water on us, on Geshem, and oimel also bless the wheat. But what's the connection with dogon, with a grain, to v'iklamema da'asik command oma chita min ilanu? There is an opinion that says that chita is a tree. Go figure. Tomato is a fruit, right? Also, yeah. No, sure. Chita is a tree, and therefore Kamat says that Shachal Amrish Chita is.
Maybe we don't have that now. This chita
It could be.
So how did they get to apple? People think it's an apple.
It's a Christian thing. I know. No, I tell you what I have it. Tell me what I have.
Grapes.
No, I'll tell you what I have the apple. I know the grapes, but I'll tell you what the apple is. Because It says in Kabbalah, it says somewhere in Kabbalah, as there's first of all there's this concept of chakal tabuch gadishin, that some of the miles is a field of apples. I don't know exactly Madega, but chakal tapuch gadishin, apples. Then it says also something. It says somewhere that there was a certain taste that tasted like an apple, also connected with chakal.
People eat on Rosh Hashana, eat apple. People think that's the reason.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
They
Well, because of the Aveda?
I don't know.
Okay, that's messed up.
Everything to do with apple and honey. This.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's basically that's l'chayda where the mistake came from, saying that this thing was with an apple. But there are opinions what kind of tree we don't know what the tree is, because we don't want to curse the tree that caused all these tzadas years later. That's why we don't really know the nature of the tree, what the tree was.
Let's talk about the Indian of an apple on Shana.
Because it's sweet. It's sweet in the chayda, no?
Only if you were
Did anything? It must be something else, you know? Must be something we should look into it. Okay. One second. I wrote in a pure Rambam. Oh, he also connects basically that the Bikurim is called, the Shtei Alechem are also called Bikurim. So that's a connection with Shtei Alechem to Bikurim, and Bikurim is the one that allows you to eat a fruit of the tree. Anyways, but basically, the dayS, according to this opinion called Rabbi Yehuda, was a chita, and in order to forgive the chita, because now it's the time of the harvest of all these of grain, therefore we bring on a tzedus, we bring shtei alechem.
Yeah, according to Judgement, the apple came from
Christian.
Yeah. Not from anywhere. In the
Yeah.
world.
So where do they have it
Your
from?
message.
What's
then.
with them all?
Now we understand your message. You have to read.
No, you have to. Yeah, this is a hint. It's a guy. It's Kabbalah, Zachen, it's Soidas.
It could be a fig tree or a grapevine.
Yeah.
Or a nursery.
Right now, it's a chita.
Because they cover themselves in fig leaves.
Zag die Gemarrah weiter. Okay, the wide lines, the widest lines of Mana, 5 lines and 6 lines of Mana. Why did they tell us to pour water in Yantev at Sukkot? Pour water, so I should pour water on you. Okay? Now say Rosh Hashana psukim of Malchus zichloines v'shoifas. Why Malchus? Kadesh tam duchul aleichem. You accept me as a king. Zichloines kadesh yal zichanechem lefnei Torah. Say the things that's written in the Torah that I will remember you for good. But how do I say it? B'shoifar. Okay? With a shofar. Amar Abavo, lama toikim b'shofar shel ayil. Why do we blow with a dafka we're makpid to blow with a shofar of an ayil, of a ram? Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu tikol lefanav b'shofar shel ayil. This also as a koden. I want to not stam remember you. I want to do a step further. One kadesh eska lechem hakedes Yitzchak ben Avraham. I should remember. I should be reminded of myself on the sacrifice that Avraham did. That it would have sacrificed the entire Jewish nation. That you yourself would be on that Kedah. And that's the Eibush, what Eibush wants to remember, Dafka through Shofar. Okay. Yeah, as Lefonai. Now, we know that, what does the Gemarrah say? How do I do Malchus and Zechroines? Bameh b'Shofar. So we know that today when we daven, we say psukim of Malchus, we blow shofar, we say psukim of Zechonis and blow shofar. The question really is, why do we say psukim of shofar? The question is,
blowing the shofar is the shofars.
Yeah. So the Tva asks this question, the last one over here. And the Gemarrah says, you don't bring a reason why you say the psukim of shofar. You say a reason why you bring the psukim of Malchus, why do you bring the psukim of Zechlenes? That I should remember you for good. And how do you do it with shofar? But why do we say psukim of shofar then? It doesn't.
Shabbos you can't blow, so you say psukim.
Oh, that's what the Gemara was saying.
This year, Shabbos.
So the Tva on the bottom of this page says he didn't give us a reason why we are bringing psukim of shofar. The Shloima, the answers that it's tzaddik. The hach pshita, it's pshita. Why the kivun the shofar ikanam psukim. When you mention a shofar, you also have to have psukim. V'yesh lamoid, this is your answer. The hachkam amem shofar mamash ubsuka shofars. When he says shofar, it means blowing shofar and saying the psukim. And why is that important? Because Shabbos you don't blow shofar, so you at least say the psukim. Shabir chas shofars, the words of psukim of shofars, who al Shem HaShofar, Av She'ein LeShofar, even if he doesn't have a shofar, or it's Shabbos, Yemaskir v'kaveh LaBracha, you should say bracha. Huh?
That's why he said.
Yeah. וכך לושן התוספתא, שופר, ששאל תפילתכם בטור, כולם באסכולת טור. Basically, even if you don't have a shofar, you should still say the psukim of shofar. Alright? Sagt die Gemarrah weiter. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, another statement of Rabbi Yitzchak. Many statements of Rabbi Yitzchak are being said here. Lama toikim Rosh Hashana. Why do we blow shofar Rosh Hashana? Fed Gemarrah, Lama toikim? What is even the question? Rachmano Amar Tika, the Torah says Tika b'ched shofar, blow shofar. El Lamarim, why do we blow a teruah? Merim, Achmona Mazichen Tua, should say make a Tua. And Lamatoikan Merim Kashan Yoishvin, why do we blow the shofar twice? Why do we blow the shofar when we're sitting, which we're not really sitting, but it's the Tkiyas the Miyushef, right after Kliyas Hateda, Vatoikin, and we blow again, and Merim Kashan Oimdim. Why do we do that? And the Gemarrah says, why do we do that? In order to confuse the Satan. So what exactly, we'll learn this when we learn this, but we'll redo it anyways. What does it mean to confuse the Satan? Rashi says, La'arvev the Satan, Shlo Yastin, I confuse him so he should not come up with with tinus against us, with complaint against us. Shlo Yastin. You see the Yidden, they're blowing more than they have to, because according to Torah, you only have to blow 30 tkoilas. And now you're blowing 60 or 70. So Mechavan mitzvahs, mistatment of he sees that Yidden, they're so careful about mitzvahs, he doesn't have any kindness against them. He can't come to the Eibush saying that the Yidden are not doing anything. Says Tosfos, a little bit different. Kedei la'avos asat in the second Tosfos, Pirush ba'adach, the Adach explains. Kedisa b'Yerushalmi, the Ran here brings down, I didn't cover, the Ran brings down that Satan is the Yitzhahara, is the Samach Mem, it's all one entity. So b'Yerushalmi it says Bila Movas Netzach. Basically, it's Samach Mem, the Malcham Movas is going to be destroyed, Lenetzach. That's when Mashiach is going to come. And it says also, when will that happen? When a shofar God will blow. So what happens now is, Zokti Yerushalmi, Katshoma Koil Shifur, when the Satan, the Malcham Movas, hears the coil of the shofar once, Zimna Chada, Bahil is like, oh, what's the shofar? Okay, maybe it's just blowing shofar. But he's worried, but not as worried. When he hears him blowing a second time, this is the shofar of Mashiach. My time to be swallowed has come. When he gets confused, he cannot come to the Eibush and tell us. So Rashi says it's about the Yidden. The Yidden are makbid the mitzvahs, and therefore the Satan is what's it called. Tosfos says it's not about the Yidden, it's about the Satan. The Satan thinks his time has come, and therefore he doesn't have time to go create a good prosecution. But that's the point. Lemevat category doesn't have time to make a good prosecution. Now, okay. Sagt die Gemarrah weiter. Every year that you cannot blow shofar in the beginning, not because it's Shabbos. Where did I see that? So one of the meforshim explaining is basically not because it's Shabbos, it's because it's because you don't have a shofar. Something happened that the first day of the year you cannot blow shofar. That year, the end, the result of that year is not going to be a good one. My time at the leave was sudden because he didn't confuse a Satan. So an interesting Rabbeinu Hananel here as well. Let's see Rabbeinu Hananel on the side. If you need a magnifying glass, I don't have. We say by Kapodas. Im yesh malach meilitz echad, when if there's one malach that is helping us out is enough. Says the Rabbeinu Hananel, Kivan shemotzanu ki yesh im yesh malach meilitz echad, asher poidem ered shachas. Just like we can have one malach that will say good things about us, ken yesh malach shmastin, we also have a malach on the other side that is doing the prosecution. Umechaven nisol zliban, and now the Yidden are having kavanah. Ve'oim shem yamad mastin leino, they're worried. Maybe this guy, this prosecutor is going to get up against us. So what should we do? Let's be careful with the mitzvahs. Like Rashi says, it sees that the Pashad love doing the mitzvahs. It's as if he doesn't he cannot, it's pastionish, he can't prosecute anymore because it doesn't work. And that is the pirush. And then he explains the same thing as Tosfos, basically that the same idea that he's worried about that his time has come to be swallowed in. So look at the end where it starts. I think the wide lines. I'm not sure if that's the same as here.
No, it's not.
It's a different. Okay. A couple lines later, it says, "Mikan on the Lamedim we learned the be'inan telasin ba'amidak mitlasim mashiv." We learned that even though the first 30 tkiyas are called tkiyas the miyushav, you need to stand. Sorry, and the same thing also. You need to stand by both, basically. No, sorry. The be'inan telasin ba'amidak mitlasim yeshiva. You need the same 30 tkiyas. Unlike many meforshim, that when it comes to the tkiyas in Shemana Esrei, sorry, in the Shtila, whatever Shemana Esrei, I don't call Shemana Esrei, the Amida, they don't blow like we do. Tashat, no, Baltakev, who's blow? You Baltakev, Tashat, whatever the three, what's it called? In many communities, actually, they blow tkiya to a tkiya. The next time they blow tkiya, shvarim tkiya, and then the tkiya from tkiya.
Make one set.
Yeah, they make one set throughout the whole davening, and Rabbi Hanan doesn't agree with it, and many others don't agree with it as well. You have to do the same type. And they basically they are machmir to do 30, 30, 30, just like we do. That's what we do with us. And B'Yashalmi Kosaf, why do we blow takamei koilas? Because of Meya Piyas Pasa Ima the Sisa's mother cried 100 times. And we call it Tvila Kalt Kiyusa the Chidah. When Meya basically these older Tkiyas come up to 100 to outdo the 100 times that his Sisa's mother cried. Okay? Shkoyach, the rest we'll do next week. A couple more interesting things. Save those other paper, we have more stuff.